Nobody talks about anything else but enjoying themselves.
Isn't that what we're here for?
Not me.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 things the Gilded Age gets factually right and wrong.
This is a turning point in history, Mrs. Russell. But are we headed in the right direction?
We don't have a choice in the matter, Mr. McAllister. We must go where history takes us.
For this list, we'll be looking at events and plot points from this HBO period drama that are historically accurate, as well as the creative liberties taken by creator and writer Julian Fellowes. As we'll be discussing plot details, a spoiler alert is now in effect. What do you find the most impressive about the Gilded Age? Let us know in the comments. Number 10. The real-life figures. Right. While The Gilded Age is a historical drama, most of the lead characters in its first season are largely fictional. However, the show still grounds its storytelling in authenticity by including a number of real-life socialites, and does its best to remain faithful to their actual lives.
Well, here we are. All of us together. What could be nice?
Characters like Mrs. Astor, Ward McAllister, and Mamie Fish were historical figures who dominated the upper echelons of New York society, and initially turned their noses up at new money families.
She's tenacious. I'll give her that.
Smile and take it as a compliment.
It is a compliment, if you knew the number of times she's pretended I didn't exist.
The show includes, among others, T. Thomas Fortune, the highly influential editor of the New York Age, then The Globe, where Peggy Scott is hired to write, and Clara Barton, who was the founder of the American Red Cross.
May I ask you some questions for my article?
Of course.
Will the Red Cross extend its help to all who suffer, despite race?
We will turn no one away who is in need, Miss Scott.
Number 9. The Black Press. Right. One of the show's lead characters, Peggy Scott, is a promising black writer who dreams of becoming a published author.
Short stories, articles, and I hope one day to write a novel.
How ambitious.
Peggy submits her stories to the Christian Advocate, but turns down their offer after she's asked to conceal her race and also change that of her story's protagonist. This leads to Peggy taking up a writing job with the black newspaper, the New York Globe, which was helmed by the great T. Thomas Fortune.
I'm publishing a story you submitted next week, and I want you to write something about that, too.
About what?
What you just said. Political affiliation without voting rights. 200 words. Good to meet you, Miss Scott.
The Gilded Age sets itself apart from other period dramas by accurately representing prominent black families of that era. It also highlights how important the New York Age paper was for black writers whose voices had largely been silenced due to racism.
We'll get the subscriptions, but not by kowtowing to the Republican Party.
A lot of colored people still believe in them. Remember, Lincoln was a Republican.
Which is why we must expose their shortcomings and demand more.
Number 8. Agnes Van Ryn's employment of Peggy Scott. Wrong. When we first meet Peggy Scott, she offers a helping hand to Marion Brooke, lending her the train fare after her purse is stolen, and the two strike up a friendship.
I'm sorry, it's not first class.
Nonsense, you've been very kind, especially when I tore your skirt.
In return, Marion persuades her aunts to let Peggy stay with them because of the weather. After discovering her excellent penmanship skills, Agnes makes Peggy an offer of employment.
Clearly, I'm in need of help with my correspondence. I don't know what your plans are, but if you're interested, I would like to hire you as my secretary.
Now, while friendships between black and white women were not necessarily rare at the time, it would have been highly unlikely for a woman of Agnes Van Ryn's status to hire a black woman as her secretary. Even the show's historical consultant, Professor Erica Armstrong Dunbar, noted in a Vanity Fair interview that it's an atypical offer and would most likely never have happened.
You're a New Yorker now. We both are. And for a New Yorker, anything is possible.
Number 7. The Statue of Liberty's hand. Right. In the 3rd episode of the show, Marion is invited to see the Statue of Liberty's hand at Madison Square Park by her late father's lawyer Tom Rakes, who has his sights set on marrying her.
What?
The hand from the proposed Statue of Liberty. It was sent over here 6 years ago to raise funds, but soon it's going back to France.
That sounds like something I would like to see.
She arrives at the park with Peggy, and both women are taken aback by the sheer size of the sculpture.
If that's her hand, what size will the Statue of Liberty be?
Big.
Tom notes it's being displayed in New York to raise funds for the statue's pedestal. Although the sculpture only serves as a backdrop in Marion and Tom's courtship, its presence is historically accurate. The real Statue of Liberty's hand and torch called Madison Square Park its home from 1876 to 1882, the latter year being when the Gilded Age begins.
So, when it goes to France and gets stuck onto the statue's arm, then it will come back here?
That's the idea.
Number 6. Thomas Edison lights up New York City. Right.
Taming electricity is probably the most important innovation of our lifetime.
And is that something to celebrate?
I think so. I wish I was there.
In his retelling of the societal tussle between old and new money families in 1880s New York, Julian Fellowes expertly weaves real historical events into his fictional world. One of such events was Thomas Edison lighting up the New York Times building on September 4th, 1882.
He invited me to attend. I'm to meet him for a terribly grand dinner in time for the evening illuminations.
Well, why didn't you say this before?
I didn't think it would interest you.
Of course it does. All I want to know is, how long do we have to wait before we install it at home?
Although Fellowes pretty much errs on the side of accuracy, he takes some creative license with it, by pushing the event from 3 p.m. in real life to when it's much darker out on the show, for a more dramatic effect. Also, while the show has Edison flip the switch in front of the New York Times building, in real life, the famed inventor turned it on at his Pearl Street station, which then illuminated the news organization. Number 5. Segregation and racial animosity in the North. Right. Going into the writing process for The Gilded Age, series creator Julian Fellowes intended to make a distinctively American show that was truly reflective of the 1880s clime. To achieve this, he sought to include multiple well-rounded black characters and an accurate portrayal of their experience in a post-Civil War New York.
Why would you change an integral part of the story?
Because it would cost us most of our readership in the South. I don't approve of the system, I can say that. But once gone, those people would not be back.
While a lot of the atrocious crimes associated with segregation and racism frequently occurred in the South, there was still palpable animosity towards black people in the North. These racial tensions are mostly depicted through the eyes of Peggy Scott.
I don't understand.
You've just discovered injustice. I've lived with it my whole life. If I spent every day fighting with bigots, I'd never get anything done.
We witness her realistic experiences dealing with racism from newspaper editors, carriage drivers, and even from the white servants at the Van Ryn household.
She's on the same floor as us.
Is there some difficulty? Ah, there you are then.
Number 4. Rapid economic growth and influx of immigrants. Right. The historical era from 1870 to 1900, referred to as the Gilded Age, was a period of rapid industrialization that brought with it the fastest economic growth rate in U.S. history.
This is a great city in a great country at a great time in our history. I want to be part of it, Father.
This caused an unprecedented increase in wages that pulled in millions of immigrants from Europe and Asia. The most prominent sector in this period was the railroad industry, which fetched its proprietors, men like George Russell, so much wealth and made them highly influential figures at the time.
Madam, $100.
It won't help you, you know. This sort of stunt does not impress the people you want to win over.
Mrs. Morris, this sort of stunt impresses everyone.
But as prosperous as this period was for the likes of the Astors and the Russells, it was the exact opposite for the poor. The period saw a significant wealth disparity that's portrayed on the show through its upstairs-downstairs dynamic.
The richest 4,000 families in the country, less than 1% of all Americans, had scooped up nearly as much treasure as the other 11.6 million families combined.
Number 3. Downstairs happenings. Wrong.
You wish you'd been invited?
Oh, I suppose. What about you?
Maybe we will be one day.
In typical Julian Fellowes fashion, The Gilded Age features a glaring class demarcation, depicting the upstairs lives of affluent New York socialites and the downstairs routines of their domestic servants.
She's gone up to change. He won't be long. I should go. Tell him I'm making a list of what is not right about this kitchen.
The master won't bother with that. I'll tell the mistress what you want, if you mean it.
For the real-life servants, maintaining the extravagant houses and lifestyles of their socialite employers was a tremendous amount of work that took a significant physical toll on them. As this period came before the advent of electrical appliances, most housework, such as laundry and hot water and cooking large quantities of food, was done manually and posed the threat of extreme fatigue and serious injury. Virtually none of this toiling is portrayed on the HBO show, with the servants spending most of their time just discussing the lives of their upper-class masters.
I wonder if they'll try to set him up with Miss Marion.
He wants an heiress, the richest he can find, and Miss Marion hasn't a penny to her name.
If you finish demolishing the characters of every member of this family, John and I will serve luncheon. Are you ready, Mrs. Bauer?
I am.
Number 2. A thriving black elite. Right. One thing the Gilded Age does right is its representation of a vibrant community of black entrepreneurs and their businesses.
There were newspapers, there were politicians, there were lawyers, there were scientists. People were like, we're going full throttle into assuming our rights and our freedoms.
Set less than 2 decades after slavery was abolished, the show features a black elite on a very similar path to wealth creation as the other wealthy white characters. It presents an often overlooked story of freedom and prosperity that black aristocrats used in fortifying the arsenal that shielded them from the blistering racial discrimination of that era.
And if we don't show the story of black triumph, of black joy, alongside trials, tribulation, violence even, then we don't have a complete picture.
Not only does the cast of characters include real-life figures like T. Thomas Fortune, it features fictional characters inspired by real people, such as Peggy Scott's father, Arthur Scott. He is in fact based on Philip Augustus White, a successful pharmacist in New York.
His background was quite complex in that he was a slave, was freed in emancipation, made his way up north, became a pharmacist, a strong member of the black elite.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions. The architectural prowess of Stanford White. Right, the notable architect designed extravagant New York mansions for wealthy families.
I'm pleased with the size, big enough to be splendid without being oppressively so.
I agree. One needs to be able to breathe.
Mrs. Fish's parties. Wrong. Her doll tea party is just a tip of the iceberg when it comes to the real-life Mamie Fish's truly bizarre events.
We were wondering what we were supposed to do with the dolls.
Don't worry. Mamie gets these wild ideas for her parties, but people pay no attention.
The squeaky clean New York streets. Wrong. The show is largely devoid of horse manure on the streets and heavy air pollution.
Recreating this time period is a big challenge. We built a full city block, with the help of visual effects, of course. But the streets are real, the facades of our 2 hero houses and their neighbors are real.
The Opera House. Right. Just like in real life, the old money families were vehemently against the opening of the Metropolitan Opera House.
The opera war is really heating up.
Why does there have to be a war? Why can't the Academy create more boxes for the new people to rent?
Because the Academy of Music is one of the last bastions of decency and standards in this city. We will not patronize any jumped-up opera house.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Old money versus new money. Right.
What's the difference?
The old have been in charge since before the revolution. They ruled justly until the new people invaded.
It's not quite as simple as that.
Yes, it is.
The major storyline of the Gilded Age deals with the conflict between the old money Van Ryn Brooke family and the new money Russell family who live across the street from them. While this living situation would have been highly unlikely, their conflict is still rooted in authenticity. Instead of the British royal titles, Americans rose to influence on the strength of their bank accounts. However, even among the rich, the old money fixtures with Dutch heritage, who made their name through real estate and fur trading, acted as social gatekeepers against the new railroad millionaires.
We cannot hope to keep out the new people entirely, or they'd form their own society that would exclude us. You know this.
Yes. This conflict, both on the show and in real life, raises important questions of human nature and our reluctance to acknowledge the inevitability of change.
I am curious about that house.
Really? You are glad to be ordered to march into hell and to dance with the devil?
I wonder sometimes if you don't slightly overstate your arguments.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.